make her fall so deeply in love with me, and then I'm just gonna leave her. I don't mean to laugh. I laugh when I'm uncomfortable. Hi, welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute, almost like a year, but that's okay. We're gonna try again. So as you can tell from the title, this is everything I read in November. It's a weird one, you guys. It was just not a good month for me for reading. I didn't have a whole lot of luck, as you'll see, and I'm having a hard time remembering the plots and the names of characters, so bear with me. Also, hi, if you're new, which you probably are, or if you're back, welcome back. I like to read romance books and I like to talk about them on the internet. Please enjoy. Gosh, November was just not a good reading month for me. Not quantity wise necessarily, like I'm no Carrie can reads in terms of the amount of books I can get through, but I didn't have a lot of good luck this month. So the first series that I read, I actually had to go back into my list of books that I read for that month because I couldn't really remember any of them, which I think is somewhat telling. And on the top of my list was The Sound of Us complete collection, which I had, if you see me looking off camera, I am looking at the Goodreads because I could not for the life of me remember any of the names of any of the characters or like what was the premise, what was going on. So The Sound of Us complete collection is actually 3 books. There's Remember Us This Way, Remember You This Way, and Remember Me This Way is the 3 books in the entire collection, and it's on Kindle Unlimited. And it's by the author C.R. Jane. So for tropes for this book, it's second chance, rock star, reverse harem. He is okay. So the main character, like I said, I had to go back and go through the Goodreads because I could not remember the main character's name, is Ari, or Ari, A-R-I. Go with Ari. She's the heroine of our story, and then she has the 3 main guys who are all best friends and in a band together. Jesse, Tanner, and Jensen. And for the life of me, I can't tell you, like, anything that distincts those characters from the other. Like, I can kind of remember their personalities, but I can't remember who is who. Ari, the book starts, she's like in this abusive marriage, and she finds out that these boys from this band that she knew in high school are coming back in town, and her husband's also going to be going out of town at the same time. And so she becomes determined to see this boys band while her husband is gone so that she can't get in trouble. And it's a lot of flashbacks and flash forwards. So it flashes back to when she's in high school and has an addict mother and her boyfriend in like a trailer park. And it comes up quite frequently that Ari feels like she's like this trailer trash or whatever. Yeah, so Ari somehow wins tickets over the radio to go to this VIP like backstage pass to see this band of what you find out are kind of her long lost boyfriends. Like I said, it kind of flashes back and forward from high school and her meeting them again, and ultimately kind of what you realize is that in order for them, for the boys to go on and have success in their band, whilst she is still graduating high school, she's a year younger than them, that she kind of pushes them away. And not only that, she does experience some trauma, where she ultimately just decides that she's going to cut off their relationship with the boys completely and just push them towards their dream career of being rock stars, which they achieve. And she goes on to marry this jerk face, realizes how unhappy she is. So as they go on, you know, she does ultimately leave her husband. There's some drama there. Trigger warnings for this book I would definitely look up. For some reason, dark romance was just on the docket for November. I don't know why. I've never really been a dark romance girly, but I guess with Halloween being right before, it was just all in my feed was dark romance things. So yeah, if you're gonna read it, definitely check the triggers, because it does get a little dark in some scenes. I've read worse. Like I said, I think overall rating for it, I put a 3.5 out of 5. I don't know that I would stick with that. I might go down to like a 2.5 or a 3. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't anything amazing. It was definitely something I feel like we've all read before. If you're into romance anyway, you've probably read a lot of these tropes already, so worth picking up. But not something that's going to be life-changing. And let's see, after that series, what did I read? Right. So Empyrean series at all, which would be Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. What are you doing? Then maybe not continue watching this portion. So for Fourth Wing, I read this earlier in the year. I read it in June of 2023, and I really, really enjoyed it. I read it all in one night. I inhaled it. I sobbed at the end. I really did love Fourth Wing and gave it a 5 out of 5. Iron Flame, I had a harder time with, I'll be honest. I think if you had asked me right after I read it, I would have said, yeah, it was amazing. I loved it. Totally lived up. And then maybe a week later, I was like, I don't know. There were some problems with it. I didn't want to inhale it the same way I did Fourth Wing. It took me longer to get through. I mean, it is a longer book, but I was also on vacation while I was reading it. So it shouldn't have been a huge problem to get through it quickly if I was able to, but for some reason it was really difficult to not difficult to read, but it wasn't as easy as Fourth Wing to just kind of inhale the story and want to go back again. So Iron Flame, we all know Violet Sorrengail. So she wakes up and her brother is still alive, comes to this realization, and then she just like goes back to the college, which I don't get. I don't really understand why she goes back. And of course the whole relationship between her and Xaden is now like kind of this angsty, but not in a fun way. Because it's just fighting. It's just dumb fighting. It's just not as much fun to read in terms of like the romance. It's not angsty, it's just fighting. Yeah, it's just harder to get through, unfortunately. I do think that she did a lot, that Rebecca Yarros did a lot for the plot in this book. I did enjoy learning more about the dragons and the politics and the magic system. Again, it was confusing. It was hard to follow, but overall I did enjoy it, and I will definitely read the next one. I might have to reread it, or maybe listen to some fantasy fangirl podcasts to really understand it better, because it was tougher, and I don't know how to feel about that. And the romance wasn't as fun, which that's my jam, is I'm here for the romance, and it wasn't really there. I mean, Xaden's still fantastic. But spice rating for Iron Flame, I think a 3.5, 4 out of 5 spice. And then for overall, I think I gave it a 4 out of 5. Wing was 5 out of 5, hands down. Loved it, inhaled it. Iron Flame, just not quite there for me. I might need a reread. I'm not sure. We'll see. Okay, I just had to go back and check again, because the next thing I read for November was another trio of this like dark romance, reverse harem stuff. I forget what the other two books are called, but it's the first one is We Will Reign by Rachel Lee, and the other ones are like You Will Bow, which I did not like, and I forget the name of the third one. But all the characters in this book are in some sort of like secret society of the town, and this, of course, secret society goes all the way up, I think, to like a national level of some kind, and all the characters have like their roles within the society. And at the beginning of the college year, they're given their assignments. The main male character, which there are 3 male lead characters, like I said, it's a reverse harem, but each book kind of focuses on more so on one of them and their romance with the main lady, who I also can't remember her name. But We Will Reign focuses on Ridge. Ridge gets his assignment, which is to investigate the murder of someone. He figures out that this girl, who is also part of this secret society, is most likely the culprit, and he just becomes utterly obsessed with her and begins stalking her, and she knows it. Like, she is fully aware that he is stalking her, and she's like, well, he doesn't really do anything to hurt me. He's just kind of always there. And I don't know why I started this book. I think I was getting a lot of like Instagram ads for it or something, which I am such a sucker for those. Anyway, she goes on, and like, of course she ends up falling for him and ends up falling for his other 2 friends, which that's all sorts of messy and gross and triggering, and it's dark. It's dark, guys. Yeah, I don't know what was with my Instagram ads for November, but it was all just kind of little yikes. Not my thing. Fine if you like it. It's just not. I don't think it's for me. I wouldn't necessarily say it's up there on Haunting Adeline level, but it's pretty dark, so definitely read your trigger warnings, protect yourself. I think overall I gave the whole series a 2 out of 5. Had some interesting plot points, maybe some interesting characters in there a little bit, but none of them are really all that likable, and I have to like my characters. So yeah, I gave that a 2 out of 5, which might be a little generous. And then spice level, again, is not my preference. It's just for the content. It would be a 5 out of 5 for sure. Be careful. I told you guys, it was a bad month. Up next on the list of bad, dark, stalker romances that Emily read for November was Severed by Vengeance. Who is the author? El Maldonado. This wasn't as bad as the other ones. I will say this one was slightly better written. Like I said, it is a stalker romance, which just feels weird to say. It begins very dark with the male lead unaliving a man who we come to find out is his father, who gave him up into the foster system when his mother died, and has had no involvement in his life whatsoever. And this poor kid just really suffered a lot within the foster system and was hurt very bad by that system. So he comes in, he is now some sort of trained assassin within some sort of secret society again, and decides to unalive his father. And while he is in the act of doing that, he's in the middle of surprising him and essentially threatening him. The female lead comes in, and we're introduced to her as kind of being this non-blood related, like, kind of niece figure to this doctor. Again, I can't remember the lead characters' names, but the male lead is like, oh, I'm gonna ruin her life. You know, she was close to this jerk of a father who ruined my life. I'm gonna ruin her. I'm gonna make her fall so deeply in love with me, and then I'm just gonna leave her. I don't mean to laugh. I laugh when I'm uncomfortable. So he creates this plan where he's going to manipulate her, which she is a police detective. He's manipulating her into realizing all the horrible things and the secret life that his father was actually leading, because she looks up to the man that was his father, and thinks of him as like a sweet old uncle. And so he shatters that image of him for her after his death, obviously, because he unalives him. They just kind of continuously fall in love / lust / obsession with each other, and he figures out who he is and feels betrayed by it. And because he has fallen so much in love with her, he wants to leave this society. He wants to become good for her, and So as payment, they kidnap her and he has to go rescue her and yada yada. Something I will say, I am grateful that it was a standalone. I think overall I gave it like a 2.5 or 3 out of 5. Spice rating, again, out of 5-ish, maybe a 4 out of 5. It wasn't that crazy. Would I recommend it? If you're into dark romance, then this might be up your alley. It was probably on like the better written scale of dark romance that I didn't really enjoy. Here's that one. To close the month out, thankfully I got a couple of books that I did enjoy a little bit more. So the first one, I did get this through the Probably Smart book club, was Icebreaker, which I know you probably, if you're a bookstagram person, you've probably seen this recommended everywhere. It is a hockey romance, and it was just really sweet and cozy and comforting, especially after all the darkness through October and November. It was very welcome, and the author, let's see, Hannah Grace, I love her. She is a self-proclaimed fluffy comfort book author, and I think that just describes Icebreaker so perfectly. So the main character, which I remember her name for this one, is Anastasia. Everyone calls her Stacy. Is a figure skater, and she's going to this college, and she and her figure skating partner, she's in pairs figure skating, have kind of this like weird toxic relationship where everyone thinks that he's in love with her, and she's like, no, he's just kind of clingy and obsessed with me, but he's not a bad guy, we have fun together, but he just kind of gets in these moods where he's controlling and hard to be around, and like she never does anything good enough for him kind of thing. And then there's the male main character, who is, oh my gosh, what is his name? Nate. Thank you. So Nate is the hockey team captain. Normally they have 2 different rinks at this college that they're going to, for the figure skaters to practice on and for the hockey team to practice on. Someone messes up on the hockey team, and a UCLA student or something comes and breaks the ice rink for the hockey players, so now they all have to share one rink, and they're kind of forced to interact with one another. And it's just really sweet. There's a lot of really fun, cute characters and fun, cute scenes and a lot of good conversation. It's very character driven. There is not a lot of plot to it, I will give it that, but it you don't even really miss the plot because the characters are so emotionally intelligent, and you get to see on the page how they're processing things in a very intelligent human way, so it doesn't really feel forced at all. It's just really enjoyable, and I liked it a lot, and I gave it a 4 out of 5, and it would have been a 5 out of 5 if there had been a little bit more plot to it, but again, I don't really miss it. Spice, I think, was also like a 4 out of 5. Nothing crazy, so spicy. I really recommend this one. Closing out November was A Court of Sugar and Spice by Rebecca F. Kenny. This was a Nutcracker retelling. So coming into December was really fun. I don't know what the right adjective is. I want to say kooky, but it wasn't kooky. It was just kind of like, okay, I guess that's different. That's a way to retell Nutcracker, I suppose. It follows 2 sisters, Clara and Louise. Their father has just passed away, and they are not of age to take their inheritance over, and so they are forced to go live with kind of their godfather figure, who is Gosselmeyer. I never say it right. Gosselmeyer, the Nutcracker guy. They go and start living in his house, and his house is filled with all these really cool inventions and automatron like staffing run the house, dolls that do these robotic type things, and they're just kind of fascinated by it. Clara is the much more like obedient one. She kind of follows the rules a lot more. But she's also an artist. And then Louisa is kind of the harebrained one. They do describe her as like being bisexual and just very like adventurous and not rule following at all. Of course, Gosselmeyer shows them the Nutcracker, and Louisa breaks it. She later decides to go back and mend it. She hurt his arm, so she's going back and she's going to try and fix it. She cuts herself on a piece of wood, and her blood gets on the Nutcracker. And of course, then the Nutcracker kind of like comes to life, and he's like, hey, I'm actually a fairy prince. I'm under this weird spell that your godfather put on me. Only your blood can fix it. Then he just kind of like slowly starts to turn back into a Nutcracker. And she's like, what the heck? So she goes and gets Clara, brings her back, and shows her that the Nutcracker can like come to life and is sane. He and all the like automatron robot things are actually just like fae people under spells. And she's like, well, aren't we not supposed to trust fae creatures? Like, aren't they supposed to be tricksters? Like, how do we know we can trust him? Ultimately, they decide to try and help this Nutcracker, aka the Fae Prince, which I can't remember his name now. And they get him back into the realm of fairies and trying to help him break this curse. On the way, I do meet the Sugar Plum Fairy, which in this one is a gender-bent male main character, and he kind of becomes Clara's love interest, and Louisa kind of becomes the Nutcracker's love interest. And it gets wild. A lot of crazy stuff happens. It was fun. I wouldn't say it was particularly dark, but it was a little wacky. I think that's a good adjective for this book, and I do think it continues on, not necessarily with these characters, but kind of within this world. She has a few other twisted fairy tale retellings, which I have already downloaded on my Kindle Unlimited, so definitely want to check out her other books, but they're a little wacky. I think overall I was giving this book a 3.5 out of 5. Spice is 5 out of 5. Maybe some trigger warnings in there, I'm not sure, but it gets a little wacky. If you want something kind of fun and wacky and spicy, but on theme for Christmas, you can give this one a go. That was everything I read in November. It was a weird month, guys. It was a weird one. Don't ask me why I did the things I did and made the choices that I made. I just am what I am, apparently. Definitely check out Icebreaker, and if you're feeling kooky and want a Nutcracker retelling, A Court of Sugar and Spice.